Thank you. Can we move on to some questions now from Graham Day, please?
Thank you, Convener, and good morning. I think we've covered many of the questions that I might have wanted to ask. So I want to touch on this from the perspective that we've only really fleetingly engaged on. Now, I don't doubt the merits of the cases that both of you make on behalf of your members, nor do I question your right to come along here today and call for greater funding for those interests. But with rights come responsibilities, I would contend. We've had a herd asks, Convener, around better pay for staff and increases in grants and bursaries, but all of these have to be paid for. And we've acknowledged that there's considerable pressure on the Scottish Government budget, which is only going to increase in the years to come. So can I ask each of you from where the funding would come to meet these asks? Are we talking about looking at elsewhere in the education budget and making cuts there? Are we talking about cuts to social security budget, justice, net zero, for example? Now, Mary Senior, you, to be fair, you indicated a progressive taxation approach would be the answer to this, but you also appreciate there will be other areas of education who would contend that they are worthy recipients of the fruits of that approach. Colleges, for example, told us last week that there's less money comes to them per student in the university sector. So, difficult question, but I want to pose that to both of you because in the real world, the money has to come from somewhere.
Mary first, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'd say it's not really our role to say that, but you're right. I mean, I would look to taxation, and I would also say that the Scottish Government, Scottish Parliament does have tax-raising powers, and it can look at other priorities. I suppose I'd also look at the small business bonus. That's one that an area that the trade unions have questioned its merits. I think I would also reflect that for partly, I think universities could make some better decisions around their own spending. Certainly when you look at salaries of those at the top, I think we could make better choices. I think when we also look at some of the campuses that we see overseas, New York, Dubai, those sorts of places, I think better decisions could be made there. But, I think it's absolutely right the Scottish Government has taken the decision to provide tuition for Scottish domiciled students. Absolutely 100% support that decision. However, it needs to be properly funded, and at the minute it isn't. That's a real cause of concern.
The Federation of Small Business might have a different view on the small business bonus to yourselves. Ellie Gomersall.
I would once again echo what Mary says. I think particularly those points around, universities also have a responsibility to think about where they're making priorities. But the Scottish Government has those same decisions to make. We're here to advocate for our members, and I think that when you look at the number of students who have been, for instance, homeless, and the really depressing figures here around mental health, I think that absolutely has to be a priority for the Scottish Government.
But you're not telling us what you would deprioritise then to meet those priorities.
Well, I think that's the responsibility of the Scottish Government to make those decisions, perhaps.
So in other words, just find the money from wherever.
Well, no, I think that we've talked, for instance, about things like progressive taxation. I think that when ultimately we're talking about prioritisation here, and what I would advocate for is that education should be a really high priority for the Scottish Government. Student mental health, homelessness should be a really high priority for the Scottish Government. I'm not going to sit here and tell the Scottish Government what decisions they need to make around, what else they're going to do that's not related to education. I'm here to talk about education and to advocate for our members and where that money needs to go.
Thank you.